Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to the next episode review of Dandadan Season 2, Episode 2 overall. Episode uh, 14. Make sure I get that right, because I made a mistake saying it's 14 or 13, some past other ones. Yeah, episode 4, it's episode 14, yes. I make mistakes like that all the time. So yeah, so this is part or let me say, when I saw it in the theater, right? This is the middle part of the movie. So, but still enjoyable, and we get this now when this we get this part of this tragic story. You know, yeah, but only that the main part is not only it's still Gigi's story is his episode still, right? This is still his episode, like how it was mostly in the first episode, but well, first obviously this first episode was more about those still that family freaks after they got swallowed, but find out in the next episode, which like I said, I already saw it's episode 3 already in the theater, so but I thought I know what's happened to that psycho family. But not only with this is still Gigi's he's still the center of this still right now, but we get this sad tragic story, which is probably as saddest I've seen since that story in the last story of season 1 dealing with Acrobatic Silky, right? I mean, Acrobatic Silky, that was she was a tragic story, you know, just so much grief and what happened to her daughter, and just it was such a tragedy what happened to her. But in this case, dealing with this kid from back then, you know, being as a sacrifice to that family of freaks, sacrificing this poor kid to appease their god or whatever. This giant worm turns out, right? Like I said, this giant worm makes the grab boy from Tremors look like a shrimp. But the deal with the story with this kid, just you know, just he's been chosen as a sacrifice, and he's been sitting this alone in this not a cave, but it's a makeshift shed where he can't get out, and he's been basically left there to starve to death because he was used as a sacrifice, and he sees all these kids playing outside. He wants to go and play, right, but he can't get out, and basically the kid is basically starving to death. But and then in times when he does get sacrificed, he's tied to the post and is basically to be burned to death. And this is what happens when. This is what happens to all. This leads up to all those families in the past, right, including Gigi's parents. You know, end up suiciding themselves, and all the other exorcisms as well for the Gigi said in the past, because now this kid is like hair getting longer and longer, you know, and the kid sees that, but then their parents end up killing themselves, like drowning themselves, like faced in this bucket of water, or they're slicing themselves or hanging themselves, and the kid doesn't know. He's like still like dancing, you know, thinking he's still trying to want to play with them, but you know he's not causing all this. And so with Gigi, you know, since he can see this, and also with that spirit that's been chasing him, right? You know, he wants to help this kid. You know, Gigi, yeah, he seems at first seems like, you know, when we first saw him, you know, when we first introduced in the last season, when he sees Momo, you know, he's acting all weird and stuff though. But really, the guy is just really just the guy means well, and he has a good heart because he really wants to. Like I said, he does like Momo. He does care though, but all at the same time he teases her though. But at the same time, it shows that what a good guy he is, because he wants to help this kid out. You know, basically make himself rest, right? Because even after when he got burned, he was still basically almost still alive. Still, it was like, oh, that kid's wiggling a bit, you know, which leads that to the kid and his parents getting killed. And that's what happened throughout the years, you know, all that that psycho family building house after house after house, you know, which leads to all those houses down below in that ditch. So, and at the same time, with him helping this kid and the spirit, you know, wanted to because there's also like, it also we see like with Ken or Akurun, and Momo, they're trying to off themselves, right? Because of this, how the spirit is around, right? Like they're trying to off themselves, but Gigi's trying to stop them, and then he absorbs their. Now it's like with Akaru, with the power with Turbo Granny, and with Ira with the power of Acrobatic Silky, and now Gigi, he gets the power of this thing, right? He gets his power now, but he does. But the thing is, kind of like has a little bit of control over his body, but at the same time, it has that little. It does have a little bit with Gigi because you know Gigi, he likes soccer, right? And the spirit that has control over him, he shoots like these projectiles that are shaped like soccer balls. He's like kicking them like it's soccer, right? At kicking these projectiles, these balls that's like soccer at Akaru and Momo, you know, and at the same time, they have to deal with this worm, while, and then at the same time they try a way to get out of there, but is to back up the way they came, but that's more on that though. That's more on the third part though, but which that's gonna be the next episode though. But I can't get too far ahead. But it was called the Evil Eye. That's what the thing is called, the Evil Eye. So now that he has the power of the Evil Eye, but it's like almost got control of him, and he's like at the same time, like reminiscing with Gigi, he's like shooting these projectile energies at him that's shaped like soccer balls. So it's kind of like that little bit had to still retain that bit of Gigi in him. So, and in the ends, really know him. They're just trying to deal with him, and then try to escape, you know. And Turbo Granny is just, well, she's like the side character of this, so she's like, she can't do much either. So, but at the same time, it's just like it's the whole behind the scenes is the main thing is now it's mostly Gigi. It's still the story arc is still focused on Gigi. He's the main focus still of this so far of this arc, right? You know, Akaru and Momo, they're just this time they're like pushed to side characters, right? But it's like Gigi, he's the main focus, the main character of this first episode and this episode and the upcoming next one. But it just shows this. I haven't seen like a tragedy of a character in the story of this character about this boy since the last season, dealing with the tragedy of Acrobatic Silky, right? Just like it's like with Acrobatic Silky, was dealing with this whole bunch of grief and despair, right? And now what they're doing with this kid, just being left there, basically starved to death, too weak to move, until offered up as a sacrifice to this deity worm, and then ends up becoming the spirit that ends up like he wants to play with other kids, but their parents end up offing themselves. So it's almost kind of based on that, but it shows like Gigi, he's a good guy. He wants to help this kid out, you know. It's just, yeah, we first saw him. He's acting a bit weird because he's teasing Momo, right? But overall, he's just been generally a good guy overall, you know. It's really sad, just to know. So like, this is basically the most tragic I've seen since the story of Acrobatic Silky. So, but yeah, but overall, yeah, it was still once again a really great episode. Like I said, I saw this. Like I said, the first 3 episodes I saw when it was combined as a movie in the theater, which I said once again, great seeing it in the theater. You know, great experience seeing Dandadan. So, after next week's episode, then I don't know anything about next until when episode 4 comes on. So then we'll continue my watching on from there. So, and once if you hear that, once again, I have a fan going on high because it's hot as shit right now. So hot right now. But anyway. But yeah, that's episode 2, overall 13 of Dandadan. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one, and we'll see you next time. Later.